Toby from Heavyweight MMA, stand-up backer smash. We've got Phar Jenkins in the house after his win at Eternal MMA 64 against Rod Costa, the Brazilian black belt, man. Well done. How do you feel?
Yeah, feeling good. My hands are a bit sore, as are my feet, but very happy with how the fight went. So, yeah,
that was one of the questions I had actually for a bit later on was, are your hands sore, man? Because you battered his head for five-minute rounds, man. And I was thinking to myself, that's going to hurt your hands.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I had a good set of wraps on from my coach Andy. He we knew I was going to be punching a lot, so you can sort of wrap your hands as a grappler or as a striker, and we definitely wrapped them like we were going to punch a lot. So that was good. But they still by the end of the fight, when I went out the back, I could tell they were going to swell up, and they haven't been much good to me this week, but it was worth it.
That's it, man. And before the fight, Rod was bringing up a bit of beef and talking some talk. And in my mind, I was just thinking during the fight, sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for, man, because he definitely got what was coming to him.
Yeah. Fuck, it was nothing personal about it. He wanted to fight from a professional point of view, in the sense that he just wanted the belt. That was his big goal. And he wanted to test himself against the best guy. So you gotta respect that. It's not like he was calling out fucking number 10 or number 15 to try and get wins and, goading someone else. He went straight for the number one guy. So you got to respect him for that. But then you're absolutely right. When it's in there and it's go time, I wasn't going to hold anything back. And so it was.
I would say respect, not for just calling you out, but for being as hard as he was, man, to take those shots and to keep going for 25 minutes that was a one-sided beatdown, to be honest. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
And 24 of 25 minutes, you were just smashing him. So, he got that takedown at the end and got a little bit of a minute of work himself. But yeah, he's a tough boy.
Yeah, tough as they come. Yeah, but I did my job, and I'm very happy with how it went.
And man, before the fight, you mentioned before when we chatted that you give him full respect. He's a BJJ player, and you mentioned that anyone's dangerous in those small gloves, right? So you gave him your respect. But once he got in there, you mentioned that he'll be trying to get you in the cage, but you're more explosive, aggressive, etc., and got the win.
Yeah. So I think the way I move is very hard to deal with, in the sense that I always sit in this range where I'm kind of just outside of your range, but I can, because I'm so explosive and so fast, I can get in and get out and get my work done quickly. And it kind of unsettles people because they can't get any of their regular stuff that they normally throw off without being at risk. And you add that in with switching stances and lots of fakes, and it's just a lot for people to deal with. So where Rod normally probably would have been able to time his double leg takedown and some other stuff like that, he just didn't have the opportunity to do so. But yeah, so that was how I thought the fight was going to go. I knew he was going to be tough and stick around for most of the fight. I thought maybe I'd be able to get him out of there sort of fourth or fifth maybe, but not many people stand up after those leg kicks, like not many at all. So, I think he even had to get carried out of the venue once the adrenaline wore off. His legs were just buckled. But, for him to stand up and keep coming forward, that fifth, it was great.
Like you dropped him in the first round with the calf kicks, and I was just thinking, this guy's going down. I was sitting there watching, like I mentioned, I was sitting there watching with my boss, actually, sitting there watching, going, he's going down. Look at that. He's already hitting the calf kicks, and then he dropped down. I'm thinking it's going to be over very soon, But
I think in the fourth round, I dropped him on 4 or 5 separate occasions with kicks, where he actually either took a knee or hit the deck.
That's it, man. And like you mentioned, like looking at the keys that got you through to the win. You mentioned a few different things there. Your takedown defense, your timing. Confidence was a big thing, man. You went in there very, very confident. You could see it in the way you moved. Your speed and explosivity was much, much higher than his. You could see it even in the scramble, like much faster. And obviously your straight punches and the way you're mixing it up as well from high-low was very impressive, man. That was for the body. You started off with some strong body punches in the first. And then also obviously integrating the legs into it as well, which makes it even more difficult. It doesn't know where it's coming from, right?
Yeah. Yeah. When you can mix up all three of those levels, it just opens up so many more options for you, because your fakes get different reactions, and that opens different stuff up. And, we've spoken about it before, Toby, about how I never just want to be, even though I am explosive and I am fast, I never want to rely on those things. I think my biggest strength is my IQ and my ability to read what's in front of me and draw things out of my opponents. And I think probably that fight on the weekend, I showed that more than any other fight, where I was faking on the jab, and then when he would bite, the right hand would come, and then I would jab, jab, jab. And then when I'd bite on the jab and he would sort of go to parry, then a hook would come into a low kick. So my ability to just mix through my shots and, sit in my range, I think is a big strength.
Hey, man, I just wrote down that I want to know, what did you say in round one when you guys faced off? You said something to him before you guys were separated. What did you say? Do you remember?
Before we went out, like when we were
you
getting
went up together to touch gloves and get the referees.
So in one of his posts on Instagram, where he said he'd said something along the lines of, Jack Jenkins is a coward. I'll make him a deal. If he takes the fight with me, I promise I won't even grapple. We can just have a striking fight.
Yeah.
So when we stood, I said, hey, remember when you said on Instagram you weren't going to take me down? Let's see how fucking long that lasts now. So that was all I said.
Well, the first round he tried, right? He tried to take you down at some point in round one.
Yeah.
You stuffed the shot just too easily, man.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think an important part of looking at these performances for you two is to look at, what you can improve, man. Have you had a chance to sit back and have a look and have a think about things that you'd like to do better?
Yeah, definitely. I probably lasted 5 minutes before I pulled someone aside and said, hey, I want to change this. I want to do this better. The first thing I said was I wanted to be a little bit lighter. I probably went in there maybe a kilo heavier than I should have. A kilo, 800 grams, somewhere between that 800 grams and a kilo and a half too heavy, which I'm not a huge featherweight anyway. So it's not like I was overweight or I was missing weight or anything like that. It was just that I think you shouldn't be trying to be a big featherweight or a small featherweight or whatever. You should just try and sit where you perform the best. And I think I want to be a little lighter. That was the first thing I addressed in the immediacy after the fight. I spoke to a good friend of mine and said, hey, we've got to do this better. And then the other thing, I would like to have been able to get my elbows off a little bit more. So I probably only threw 3 or 4 elbows. And I think there was chances when I really could have. But without being too critical, if you get inside and you throw those elbows and you overcommit and Rod slips in and underneath, that fight could have gone differently. So, there was a few things I wanted to do better. But I don't think it was so much like technique stuff. It wasn't like I wanted to, because I kicked low, I kicked body, I kicked high, I punched low. Maybe avoid a couple more of his jabs. He landed a few nice jabs, maybe counter off the jabs. Would have been nice to do better. Like, I think there was one point in like the first or second round where I baited him into a jab and I slipped off the right side, and then I threw a big right hand and it kind of just glanced behind his head. And I just thought if I just maybe pulled the power back on that 20% and just tried to touch it, behind his ear or in front of his nose, that would have maybe been a better shot. But I wasn't.
Go on.
What was that?
I was going to say, it's kind of funny because I had 2 things that I mentioned, although I've written down here that I would like to see, just my own watching the things I like to improve. And one of them was some elbow opportunities. It's so funny that I wrote it down. Some elbow opportunities. And because in round 5, you threw a really nice knee at one point there in round 5. And I'm just thinking, I wish you would have done those knees a little bit earlier, because they're just so damaging, right? Like the power of a knee is a lot more than a punch at times, if you can really get your hips behind it. And then the same, you threw an elbow straight after. And I was just thinking, man, there were some opportunities in there. Instead of bashing up your fists, you could have dropped an elbow in. And so that was one thing I was thinking as well, which you threw in that round. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, Toby. Especially when the threat of the takedown had lessened a little bit. And it was like once I'd sort of come to terms with the distance and how explosive he was into his takedowns and stuff, and I'd kind of taken away his ability to really drop down by beating his legs up, I probably could have afforded to play that over game a little bit more with the elbows. And then when he shelled up, land some knees to the body. But yeah, I agree. Definitely could do better next time. But I'm always looking to get better every fight. So
True,
I'm
man.
sure I'll
That's the way to
fight
do
back
it.
I'll watch the fight back times and pick a heap of shit out for me to do better.
Exactly. And the one other thing I said, you almost mentioned it then, the way you said about getting away from his jab, and you said you angled off after throwing a punch. And that was the only other thing. I saw you in round 5 again, you threw something and then you just did a quick angle to the side and punched him. And I just would like to see that a little bit too, because it makes you just that little bit more elusive, right? That little angle. So something to work on it, because you do it obviously, because you did it in round 5. I noticed it, and it would have been nice to see a little bit more of that, because he was straight line. He's straight line. If you just angle off, you can land a few, like you said. You already said it, but yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And it was good, man. It showed all areas, man. It showed that you've got mad scrambling ability and takedown defense, as well as a stand-up. So, yeah, putting you in good stead to move up, man. So you pretty much mic dropped and called out the UFC, bro, for 2022. Is that what your goal is for the year?
Yeah, 100%. I think I'll be called up by mid-year. I'll have got my call, whether it's for contenders or something else. I think I've done the work to get there. Like who else has been as active as me since the pandemic in Australia at featherweight? Like no one. Like I've taken on, I've had, Diego, then Jesse, then Jason, then Rod. Anyone who's agreed to take the fight, I've signed to fight against. So it's it's my time. I've done the work. I don't think anybody will begrudge me for making my call out and thinking that I deserve my shot now.
That's it, man. It was a good speech at the end, man. Silence some of the haters and making it clear what you want to be doing this year. It's good work.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, that's it, man. So looking forward to seeing you take the next step, whether it be UFC, whether it be another potential organization. There's a few big organizations around that would probably also like you, man. So we'll be waiting. Check it out and paying attention to your next step, bro.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to see where the year takes me.
That's it, man. Cool. All right, man. Thanks for your time again, and we'll catch up soon.
Thanks very much, Toby. Appreciate it.